Good morning, and we want to say welcome to the members of the media and other distinguished guests that are here with us today as we announce this Hands Across the Border event. We also want to thank the Genesis United Methodist Church here right on the Tennessee-Alabama state line for allowing us to use their facility for this event. Today, not only are we kicking off the Hands Across the Border event that will take place tonight between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, there will also be saturations on both sides of the line, and we're doing this in conjunction with the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign that will be going on not only here in the state of Tennessee and in Alabama, but also in the rest of the nation. We have several goals in mind. When you hear the words drive sober or get pulled over, first and foremost, our goal is to send a message that says, do not drink and drive. Starting this weekend through Labor Day, which is September 1st, law enforcement all across the country will be taking place in this campaign and be taking part. Drunk driving kills more than 10,000 people every year. On average, one person every 51 minutes is the victim of an alcohol-impaired crash. And when we have holiday weekends, there is a surge in drunk driving. Of all traffic fatalities over the Labor Day holiday, 38% of those involve impaired drivers due to alcohol. That statistic is normally around 30% nationwide. During the Labor Day weekend in 2012, nationwide there was 147 people killed on our roadways. That is why we ask you to please join hundreds of law enforcement officers, the Alabama Highway Patrol, Tennessee Highway Patrol, local safety advocates, counties and cities all across the land in this nationwide drunk driving campaign. One reason that we do this during the next 2 weeks is because research has proven that we can reduce impaired driving fatalities by 20% when we have high visibility campaigns. With that in mind, all across the country and here in Middle Tennessee, law enforcement will be out in force doing saturation patrols, sobriety checkpoints, and high visibility campaign. Not only do we ask that you drive sober, we ask that you drive responsibly. We plead with you, please wear your seatbelt. In the state of Tennessee, we've lost 568 people this year in traffic crashes across the state of Tennessee. 212 of those were unrestrained and 29 of those were undetermined. While the state of Tennessee has about a 90% seatbelt usage rate and Alabama has about 93% seatbelt rate, we in each state still have close to 60% of our fatalities being killed because they do not wear their seatbelt. Not only do we want to focus on the main highways and roadways, but we're finding more and more that the number of fatalities on our rural roadways are equaling those who are killed on our state highways. So, when you think that you're safer closer to home, remember that's not always the case. We still need to be sure and be responsible with our driving, wear our seatbelts, because some of the things that we've always heard and we always thought are not always the truth. We're also glad today to have with us someone who is very dedicated to law enforcement, who was here before, has been here several years. I keep losing track of that, and he always has to remind me. But he has really brought highway safety to the forefront in the state of Tennessee, and we want to welcome at this time Director Kendall Poole.
I want to thank Tony for all of his work in Middle Tennessee as a law enforcement liaison and bringing everybody together. Whenever we do what we call a Hands Across the Border event, it is extremely important to us. We're here on the Alabama-Tennessee line today celebrating this campaign with our friends from Alabama, and whenever we do this, we talk about the fact that, you know, we may fight on the football field or the athletic field or anything that we do, But death on our highways doesn't know any boundaries. And we want to be able to share best practices. We want to be able to share campaigns. We want to be able to share our education. We want to be able to share our enforcement, because one life that we lose is too many. And this is a special time, as Tony mentioned. We're talking about Labor Day weekend and coming into the final 2 weeks of our official 100 days of summer heat in our summer campaign. And we talk about impaired driving in particular at this time of the year. We're proud of the fact that in the state of Tennessee, we're well below the national average for a percentage of fatalities due to impaired driving. Nationwide, it's above 30%, and we've gone down to 23% in the state of Tennessee. And we credit that to our Booze It and Lose It campaign, but we also credit it, just like they do in Alabama, to education and engineering and enforcement, all of those things working together to make a very, very strong campaign, because, again, one life is too many. We represent educators, we represent advocates, we represent prosecutors, we represent law enforcement who back up that educational campaign, and we represent the folks at both of our DOTs that make sure that we have the safest roads that we possibly can, to eliminate any hazards that we can, because all of those things working together help us save lives on our roadways. In the state of Tennessee this year, as of this morning, we are almost minus 40 in fatalities compared to the same time last year. That's tremendous, especially considering the fact that the first 6 months of last year were extremely strong. And I looked at the numbers, I said, if we could just match those numbers from last year, but then really make up ground in July, August, and September, heavy driving season, heavy impaired driving season, that we can actually be on our way to set all kinds of records for low numbers of fatalities. We're actually 33% better than we were in saving lives than we were just a decade ago. But yet again, we've still almost got 1,000 on average for the last 5 years in the state of Tennessee, and that's still way too many. So when we talk about setting records and we talk about saving lives, it means somebody doesn't have to go knock on the door and tell a family member or a loved one that they've lost somebody in an impaired driving crash. And Tony makes a great point. Your best deterrent against an impaired driver is seatbelt usage. Well over half of our fatalities come from those who don't buckle up. We know that we've got nearly 90%, right around 90% in Alabama and Tennessee. And just think, if we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more percentage points of folks to buckle up with those high-risk drivers, how many more lives that we would be able to save in each of our states. So again, even though we're focused on impaired driving right now, we want to address seatbelt usage. We want to address speed. We want to address distracted driving, and let you know that all of our local law enforcement partners are so well represented here today, and all of our troopers from the Tennessee Highway Patrol and the Alabama State Patrol through the Department of Public Safety are there not just to get a quota, but they're there to help save lives. And I want to be able to tell you at the end of this year that we have been able to save more lives and set all kinds of records in both of our states, where we've been able to make that tangible difference. So members of the media, we appreciate you being here today. To all of our partners on both sides of the state line in Alabama and Tennessee, thank you so much for being a part. You don't know how much you mean to us. You don't know how much you mean to the public in helping us do the work that people want us to do and that people need us to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kendall. There is no way possible that we can meet the goals that Kendall talks about, that Kendall sets for us every year, if it were not for those great partnerships that you see represented here today. Not only our troopers on both sides of the line, but sheriff's departments, police departments, all those play a very significant role. one of the great partnerships that I have in this part of the state that's dependable, it's always there, ready and willing to work and do whatever we need them to do, is the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, whose leader is very passionate about his citizens in his county. And at this time, we want to welcome Sheriff Mary Blackwelder.
Good morning. It's indeed an honor to be here among such distinguished individuals that want nothing other than to help the citizens of both states. All of these people lined up behind us want nothing other than to protect lives and make sure that their loved ones go home at night. The objective of this entire campaign is to do nothing other than protect the lives of the citizens driving these roads every day and every night. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to show that we are united across the line. Many of you know that Lincoln County and Madison County have a great working relationship, and I think this does nothing other than exemplify that. Alabama Highway Patrol, Tennessee Highway Patrol have all come together to show that this state line is nothing other than an imaginary line. If you break the law either side of it, then we're going to be here to take care of it. It's an honor to have the opportunity to be a part of such a great organization and hopefully see to it that lives are saved as a result of it. Thank you.
As well as Lincoln County on the Tennessee side, I know that Madison County as well has great leadership because of the testimony of that I've gotten from Sheriff Blackwelder. At this time, we want to welcome Chief Deputy Dave Jernigan from the Madison County Sheriff's Department.
On behalf of Madison County Sheriff Blake Dorning, I'd like to welcome everyone today to this event. We are celebrating 23 years of this annual event as we approach the next couple of weeks into Labor Day. The Hands Across the Border campaign consists of a lot of our southern states, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, to name a few. It uses the combined efforts of public safety and law enforcement partners from both sides of the line at the state level, county, and municipal to heighten public awareness to unsafe driving. This campaign continues to save lives through education, community awareness, and law enforcement. In particular, drunk driving continues to be one of America's deadliest crimes for 2003 and 2014. In 2013, traffic fatalities in Alabama totaled 307 as investigated by the Alabama State Troopers, of which 162 resulted in no seatbelt usage. This year, in 2014, we're at 303 fatalities recorded, and we still have 4 months left in the year. And this is a stat that we don't want high. We want this stat. We don't want to break a record this year. If you plan to drink alcohol this weekend, please designate a driver, call a taxi, phone a friend to come and pick you up. Please maintain your safe speeds, buckle up yourself, your passengers, and especially your kids. Don't drink and drive, and please don't text and drive.
Thank you, Chief Jernigan. When I first started this job, it was a task in trying to develop relationships all across Middle Tennessee with different districts of the Highway Patrol lieutenants. And I brag a lot about that great relationship to people all across the state. They share the mission, they share the goal, and are a big part of what makes Tennessee such a great, safe state. And along with that, one of those great assets is when we have captains like Captain Sellers, who has went the extra mile today, just like his lieutenants, sergeants, and all those others in uniform. It's so good to have that kind of support behind the Governor's Highway Safety Office. Without that, our goals will never be met. At this time, I would ask Captain Wayne Sellers from Tennessee Highway Patrol to come, please.
Thank you, Tony. On behalf of Colonel Tracy Trott of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, I want to thank the members of the media for coming today. Also, every representative from all respective agencies, I want to thank everybody for coming today. I'm Captain Wayne Sellers. I am the district commander for the Lawrenceburg district.
which primarily is all the southern counties that border Alabama all the way across. Got a little something different today. I'd like to ask the members of the media a question and turn the tables on you a little bit and ask you viewers a question. If I was to ask you a question, how many fatalities within your family and among your friends would be acceptable? I think I know the answer to that. At least I know the answer for myself. I'm not willing to give up any member of my family or any one of my good friends to a fatality. And I think your viewers would share that same opinion. So on my right pocket here, you'll see a little pin that says 0 on it. And it shows how vested and how each member of the Tennessee Highway Patrol has taken ownership of the task of reducing traffic fatalities with an ultimate goal of 0. If we have 1, we're not happy. Our ultimate goal is 0. We're going to accomplish that task by focusing in 4 areas. The first one is DUI. That goes without saying. It's already been stated here. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of statistics, but everyone knows the dangers and the perils of an intoxicated driver. Therefore, our district has made great strides in the last couple of years. For this year so far, we're plus 25% for the entire district in DUI arrests. Secondly, seatbelt violations. We're losing too many of our citizens in crashes in fatal crashes that didn't have to happen simply because they didn't choose to buckle that seatbelt up. Secondly is distracted driving. Members of the Tennessee Highway Patrol refer to that often. That includes texting and driving. Many different forms of distracted driving, but the vast majority of that distracted driving involves a cell phone. We describe it within the Tennessee Highway Patrol as driving while intoxicated, because it's just as every bit as dangerous as driving under the influence. Secondly, lastly, should I say, hazardous moving violations. Almost every fatality in the state of Tennessee, and I would assume it's that way nationwide, includes one of the 4. It's either as a result of a hazardous moving violation, a distracted driver, someone that failed to buckle their seatbelt, or someone that's under the influence. So that has been our focus for quite some time and will continue to be so the remainder of this year. Our ultimate goal in traffic safety is voluntary compliance. That's what we're after. The citations that we issue, the arrests that we make, our ultimate goal is voluntary compliance. However, I want all of your viewers to know today, if we don't get voluntary compliance, I'll promise you we'll provide the motivation. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Sellers. I can't say how thankful I am for the Alabama State Troopers, Alabama Highway Patrol, who helped me so much put this together. And I know especially Lieutenant Barnett and all of his work with us. And I know that their goals and their mission is a whole lot like Tennessee. Our goal is to save lives on both sides of this line, and that is our intention. And so it's also good to have them so well represented today, and they'll be represented by Trooper Curtis Somerville, Alabama Highway Patrol.
Thank you. On behalf of Governor Robert Bentley and our Director, Colonel John Richardson, thank you for coming out and welcome you to the state of Alabama. Our goal is the same as you heard every law enforcement officer say here. Our goal is to kind of get out and work as a team. It's good to show a show of force here that we on the side of Alabama, we on the side of Tennessee. We have one goal in mind, and that goal is to save lives and prevent crashes. We do that through different means. We have saturation patrol, we have driver's license checkpoint. Here in Alabama, we have a new campaign that we're using called TAC. This is a campaign where we utilize the services of our commercial vehicles. We get out and we get a bird's eye view in terms of what's going on around us to kind of go out and target aggressive drivers. So we're going to be doing that throughout the holidays. Also, we're looking at people driving under the influence. If you're driving under the influence, guys, the best thing you can do, we have football season, as earlier stated, football season is coming along. We tend to have people want to go out and have a good time during football season. We definitely encourage you to have a good time, as with any other event, but get you a designated driver. What we mean by a designated driver is someone that has not had any alcohol in their system. If that person is going to be a designated driver for you, that person needs to have 0 alcohol in their system. Not a beer, not that it's okay to drive with a beer or two. That person needs to have no alcohol in their system at all. One of the things we look at, guys, as I said, this is a shared responsibility. We in law enforcement, we're going to go out and get you through education. We're going to target you through enforcement. One of the things a parent, this has to be a shared responsibility with not just law enforcement, but parents also. We need parents, just as when school days you send your children out, if it's cold, you encourage that child to put on a raincoat, to put on a hat, to put on something to keep them warm. But when your children get out and they start driving, let's be honest, guys, driving under the influence of the use of alcohol is actually increased among our children. We're going to have to pay close attention to our children and tell them not to drink and drive. We're going to have to tell them to wear their seatbelts and not to, first of all, text and drive. Seatbelts are very important, guys. Here in the state of Alabama, we've already discussed it since Click It or Ticket. Our seatbelt usage is up a little bit. We're somewhere between 85-90% seatbelt usage. But here, we've had the vast majority of fatalities we have in the state of Alabama. Approximately 70% of those folks are not wearing their seatbelts. So you look at 70% of the folks that are actually killed in the state of Alabama that are not wearing seatbelts. When you get about 15% of the folks that are not wearing seatbelts killed in car crashes, that 15% of people that are not wearing seatbelts make up for 70% of the people that are killed in this state. And that's such a small number to not wear seatbelts, but make up for the vast majority of people that are killed in car crashes. Now, there are some simple forms. We can talk about seatbelts all day long, and we can go out and preach that message, but people have made up their minds sometimes that they don't want to wear seatbelts. Well, here's a simple solution, a simple analogy that I like to use sometimes. Let's look at it like Russian roulette. I won't sit here and tell you that every time you put a seatbelt on, it's going to save your life. We know there's certain crashes, just based on the impact of those crashes, body trauma, that the body can only stand so much trauma. But here's an analogy that I like to use. When you look at seatbelt usage, let's look at it like Russian roulette. If you want to take a weapon out and you put a bullet in it and you spin that cylinder, you shut that weapon, and you pull that trigger against your body, well, if you got a 6-shot revolver, there's a 1 in 6 chance that you're going to shoot yourself or bring harm to yourself. Now, let's change that scenario up just a little bit. This time when we open up that cylinder, let's put 5 bullets in and leave 1 blank. And let's shut the cylinder up this time. All of a sudden, our chances aren't so good anymore. Now, you can harm yourself in both instances, and I won't say that you won't, but certainly the odds are in your favor with 1 bullet as opposed to 5 bullets. And this is the same thing with seatbelts. Not saying that seatbelts will save your life every time, but you certainly put the odds in your favor. So we're going to certainly encourage you to wear those seatbelts every time you get out. Now, texting and driving, that is a big factor here in the state of Alabama. And here's the thing with texting and driving. No matter how well you think you can text and drive, you can't text and drive. We have deemed this as the brand new DUI. Get this, if you're driving under the influence, and not to give any credibility to driving under the influence, but at least if you're driving under the influence, for the most part, your eyes are open. But if you're texting and driving, guys, your eyes are down. That means you're not looking at the roadway, and that certainly puts you in a different perspective. So again, we're going to encourage parents, children, anybody that's on the highway not to text and drive. Certainly encourage, again, your children when they get out, but just not your children, parents, responsibilities, parties. When you go, take the keys from that person that might be a potential dangerous driver when he gets on the highway. You need to get those keys before that person gets under the influence of alcohol, because once a person gets under the influence of alcohol, they are not going to give you their keys. They're going to become combative. So get those keys before they come under the influence of alcohol. And again, this is a shared responsibility. We want you to help us with this. We're going to go out and target you guys, but our goal is not to write just to go out. This is not a money-making venture, I should say. Our goal is to prevent lives, prevent crashes, and save lives. If we can get total compliance and not write a single ticket, then we feel we've done our job. So again, our goal is to change minds. In other words, we want to change your behavior, what you think about driving, change your attitude, change your behavior. And again, I can speak for all the guys sitting up here. That is our goal, to change your behavior when it comes to driving. And again, on behalf of Governor Bentley and Colonel John Richardson, thank you again for coming.
Over the next 2 weeks and during the Labor Day holiday, you will celebrate and you will have fun in a lot of different ways. As law enforcement, we want you to have a safe, fun holiday. Our goal is not only to celebrate with our family, but to see to it that you arrive safely with your family. If you choose to celebrate while consuming alcohol, please do not make the decision to get behind the wheel. It's way too easy to get a sober driver and way too irresponsible not to. Not only that, if you drive irresponsible by speeding, texting and driving, failing to wear your seatbelt, our goal is to keep everybody safe from you and for you. We will do all we can over this holiday to keep our fatalities at zero. One fatality will be way too many if we lose anybody on either side of this line throughout this campaign. Not only that, but as you look behind us, I want to say thank you to everybody here today. The boots on the ground is what is most important. Without all these troopers, deputies, police officers, all of our goals are in vain, and this highway becomes very unsafe for you. When you see the blue lights on the side of the highway, please remember to move over, because they are there to make sure that you are safe and that you arrive at your destination safely. Thank you, members of the media. Thank you, everyone who has been here today. And at this time, this will end our press event. If you have questions for anyone behind us, if you would, just catch them and they'll be glad to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you all the members all across Tennessee and Alabama for making this possible today. Thank you, Vernon Dahlberry, who's also with the Governor's Highway Safety here in Alabama, for being here and helping us as well. Thank you.